Did you ever want to be the one who gets to choose the next king? Are you a big fan of the Game of Thrones series? Are you an avid reader of the Song of Ice and Fire book series? Well, if any or all of those descriptions apply to you, then I have the perfect game for you, because today on Joker Reviews, we're going to be reviewing A Game of Thrones Hand of the King. Okay, so A Game of Thrones Hand of the King is a pretty simplistic game. It's fun, but it's also really easy to understand. The whole point of the game is to get more of these banner tokens than the other players. And you get each of these banner tokens by being the player that has the most members of a given house. So if you're a person who has more Stark members than any other player, you would get to have that banner for the moment. The banner can change hands based on who collects which members of which houses as the game goes on. The whole point is to have the most banners by the end when you can no longer move the Varys card. The whole kind of theme of the game is Varys kind of playing kingmaker, and you move Varys each turn by saying a member of a given house. So you might say House Stark, and you select Sansa Stark. So Varys would then move all the way in a row, and you would collect Sansa Stark, but you would also collect Catelyn Stark because she was on the way. So you would now have two members of House Stark in your play area, and you would then take the banner for House Stark. The next player would then say, "Oh, I want to also take House Stark, so I'm going to choose Robb Stark." That allows you to go the farthest there, and then you would also take Rickon, and Rickon makes it 2, which ties, so the Stark banner would go back here. Nobody currently possesses it because they have equal number of members there. So next player says they want to do Tully. So Holster Tully is the furthest, so he would pick Holster Tully right there. That would go into that player's play area, and that player would now get the Tully banner. And play kind of continues going around in that sort of order until either all of the members of all the houses are collected by some of the players, or there's no legal way to move Varys. Varys can only move sideways or horizontal, so he can move in either direction. So say we're in a situation like this, just for argument's sake. He could move up, down, left, or right, and that's fine. He can pick whichever direction he wants to go. But if we end up in a situation somehow where it's like he ends up in this corner here, and there's no cards here, no cards here, and he can't go diagonally, that would be an end to the game right there. So after, in the situation, say all of these are taken by various players throughout the game, there was a run on Starks. All of the Starks have been taken. In that situation, and if you're the person who calls the last Stark, you are then able to, somebody would have that banner. You are able to pick a companion card. If you take the last member of a house, you then are able to get one of the companions. And the companions have different abilities. So like this one right here, declare a house. Jon Snow counts as 2 character cards from that house. Do not discard this card. So that could be like a good one if you're one below somebody who has a particular house that you're pretty strong on. This could tip you over the edge. This one is, if you have Tyrion Lannister in your play area, Shay counts as 2 Lannister character cards. Do not discard this card. Here's one like Bronn. Take Tyrion Lannister from King's Landing or any play area. So that allows you to just kind of take possession of Tyrion Lannister. And this one here, See, take Renly Baratheon or any Tyrell character from King's Landing or any play area. So these are really cool, and there's a whole stack of these that get refreshed. Some of them allow you to take extra ones. Some of them allow you to kill cards. If you kill cards, that would allow you to either take, so like this one here. This one allows you to kill Eddard Stark in King's Landing or any play area. So if this is King's Landing, you could kill Eddard Stark. That would get discarded. It wouldn't go to any of the other play areas. It wouldn't go to any player. And it also would not trigger somebody being able to get a companion. And if this card is in somebody's play area already, you can still kill Stark, Eddard Stark, and then that person would lose that. That could tip the balance of the how many members of a house that they have. So that's a Game of Thrones, Hand of the King. Pretty simplistic, but it can be a lot of fun. So now that you know how to play, I'll meet you back up top and we'll talk about my final thoughts. Now that you know how the game works mechanically, let me get into my final thoughts. It's a fun game. It's pretty simplistic and it's really easy to teach. There's a little bit of variability and tactics when it comes to using the companion cards and using the variant, the Three-Eyed Raven variant. That adds a little bit of an extra layer if you want to play with teams, and having that limiter on your communication is kind of interesting. The artwork is fine. It's the kind of a stylized version of the Song of Ice and Fire kind of artwork, the different characters. You can recognize who they are for the most part. They all have pretty easy to pick out character designs in general, so it's really easy to pick out the different characters. I like how they have a consistent art style between all of the cards and all of the components. The colors are nice. It's vibrant. The card stock is pretty decent. It's not the thickest cards that I've ever seen, but it's not a flimsy card stock. And you kind of expect that out of any kind of licensed game. There's usually a certain standard that most of them will hit, at least in terms of the components. In terms of the actual gameplay, it's fun. You could play several games back to back without getting tired of it. It ends, because it's random, the mat that you're playing on, by dealing out the cards after shuffling them. There's a lot of variability in how you play it. There's a lot of, depending on the different people that you're playing it with, there's going to be a lot of different styles of play and tactics. Some people might go for more companions. Some people might just want to clear out the spots on the board really quickly. The fact that it's easy to teach and you can introduce it to a lot of different people, that's always a plus in my book. I always like games that, even if they're not my cup of tea because they're a little bit more simple than I would prefer, I always like games that I can introduce to other people that don't typically play a lot of games and that can potentially get them into the hobby. Because if there's anything that the board game hobby needs, it's more people playing. You always want more people getting involved in the hobby. It's more people to play with. It's more people that end up getting bitten by the bug of creativity to potentially go out and design new games. And new games and more players is always a good thing. So it gets a plus in my book. I'd probably give it around a 7 out of 10. For my own personal preference, probably about a 6. But in terms of the aspect of being able to introduce it to other players and being able to teach it really easily, I'd probably give it about a 7, 7.5 maybe. I tend to be a liberal scorer for the most part. But yeah, it's a pretty good game. I would suggest that you pick up your own copy. If you want to pick up a copy, there's a link down below. It comes at no extra cost to you, but it really helps out the channel. And if you like these board game reviews and all the other content that you're seeing on the channel, then like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you know what's coming up. And I will catch you in the next board game review.